dear friends, what a blessing to be with you today. Here we are with another episode from the Spiritist magazine program at Kardec Radio. Today, we continue our journey where each week we read and reflect upon one article from one of the issues of the magazine. As always, we want to remind everyone to visit the website spiritistmagazine.org. In this website, you'll find the link to download the app for the Spiritist magazine, the PDF version of the magazine, which you will see shortly. And also, you can order the physical copy of the magazine if you wish to do so. So you can have this wonderful resource in your home, in your Spiritist center, whichever way you need to study. Today we're going to talk about let us examine ourselves. So today is a self-reflection. We went from Thanksgiving and talking about being a part of ourselves, seeing ourselves as part of the whole, still individual, but working for the good of all. And today we're going to do a self-examination. We're going to be invited by Andrea Luiz. I'm going to put it here for those who arrive a little late. Girl Luiz is going to ask us some tough questions, but loving questions so that we can better realize our potential, readdress issues, return to the true meaning and sense of being here incarnated on the earth, right? Which is for improving ourselves above all. I'm going to share my screen with you. So this is what the issue 34 looks like. It was published in July of 2016. Has a ton of different resources for youth, articles for the youth and for the parents as well. And the first article is the one we're going to be talking about today. It's called Let Us Examine Ourselves. And as we gather here, I want to make sure the sound is good. Everything seems to be working. So we have Let Us Examine Ourselves by the Spirit Andrea Luiz through the mediumship of Francisco Cândido Xavier. All right, so he starts by saying that the question 919 of the Spirit's book is, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? That's the question 919. That's also where we get a beautiful dissertation from one of the spirits where he describes his routine, his daily routine for self-examination. And Andrea Luiz tells us, the spiritist's duty is to progressively become better. What does it mean to become better? To be kinder, to be more resilient, to reach out to others, to be indulgent, to watch what we say, to watch what we do so we're not hurting others as well. It says, if our duty is to become progressively better, he says, thus, it's useful to check from time to time our real inner situation by using rigorous personal examination. So it's about looking at myself. Where am I? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there, right? So only knowing our shadows, we can cast a light on them. So from time to time, he's saying, let's do some rigorous personal examination. We're entering in the US a season of winter. We're in the fall, coming into winter, where everything calms down, supposed to calm down. We, in our anxiety ridden society, we have doing, checklist, doing. But we suppose nature calms down, the temperatures are lower, everything is more dormant. Then we can reflect on the season of activity, which is spring, summer, and the fall is a transition to the quiet of the winter. Great time for personal examination. What are the things I'm telling people? Am I giving them advice that they don't want, they didn't ask for? Am I being kind? Am I being rude? Am I helping others? Am I giving some of what I have to others to help make the lives of others better? And hopefully the answer to all of that is yes. It says the Spiritist Christian who does not progress during 3 successive years remains stationary. Test your own patience. Are you calmer, more affable, and more understanding? Those are questions for us. I'm going to put us, not you, because I want to point. Because remember, even though you see us here talking, we are also learners. None of the hosts, no speaker in this world, Spiritist or not, has all the knowledge that's for God. So when we talk to you about different things, remember, we're also learning as well. Are we calmer, more affable, and more understanding? Hopefully, let's, instead of doing a yes or no, let's do a Likert scale. As a scientist, I use Likert scales a lot with my patients. So we do none of the time, some of the time, most of the time, all the time. Are we able to go through life calmer, trusting, having faith in divine providence and its resources? Am I nicer to others, more affable, meeker? Am I able to see myself as also a spirit that grows, not just only telling people what to do, criticizing, but am I able to see them as a child of God that they are? More understanding. We are in different levels of evolution. Just because I do something a certain way, you don't need to do the same way. Different groups of people in different circumstances of life have a different ways of seeing things. Now, at home, our first and most important relationship, he says, inquire. This is Andrea Luiz. Inquire regarding the relationships at home. Have you achieved the highest climate of peace at home? Dear friends, peace in the world starts within us. In these times of planetary transition, we are seeing the turmoil of the planet. We are seeing the suffering around us. We are invited to erupt a volcano of goodness inside of ourselves, to explode and share and help with everybody who is around, not just our family members and friends. But peace, kindness, moral education starts in the home. Instructions is at school. When you gain knowledge, working is separate. But at home, have we achieved the highest climate of peace? Because until we do, we're not going to be able to have the peaceful world that we aim for. And remember, the law is of progress. We each individually will get better. Therefore, the society reflecting upon the groupings of all of us will become better. What does that mean? More calmer, more affable, more understanding, peaceful. When I don't post when I don't need to post, when I don't leave messages on WhatsApp for people criticizing their choices, when I'm able to see my family members as equals, growing together with me, so on and so forth. Now, at the Spiritist Center, he says, investigate yourself regarding the activities that pertain to you in the Spiritist Center. Do you collaborate with greater joy in the harvest of the Lord? When we come here to the center, I'm currently at the Spirit Society of Richmond, in Richmond, Virginia. That's our recording studios. When we are there, are we kinder, nicer? Do we volunteer to do things? Do we have joy in coming here and learning and serving the spirits who come here, the incarnates that come here, seeking to help one another in our daily struggles? If I can't come to my spiritual center group and tell them about my problems, I have a problem. Because we should be able to We should be able to share. We should be able to bring to this blessed place, not to make it a psychotherapy lesson, not to expect everybody to fix my problems, but I can share so we can pray for you, for one another, so that we can reach out and do the physical acts of charity that we need. Because we think of charity, we only think about giving. But what happens when one of my family members discarnate? What happens when I'm sick? What happens when I'm in need? We need to look out for our friends in the Spiritist Center and see what do they need and go for it. Next, he says, observe yourself before your friends. Do you bring the gospel in livelier attitudes? Reflect about your capacity for sacrifice. Do you notice in yourself broader willingness to serve voluntarily? How many of us expect people to just tell us? We need to help serve voluntarily. I see a trash, I pick it up. I see someone who is hungry, I give food. I see something to do, I volunteer. Instead of just sitting and waiting for the world to tell us what to do. Jesus was always serving as we enter the time where we celebrate the birth of the Christ on this planet. Jesus never sat and waited for people to come tell him what to do. He was always proactive. He went and helped. He went and did. Now let's talk about attachment. He says, research your own detachment. Do you walk a little freer from the desire of influence and earthly possessions? Am I so attached to my things that I can't get rid of anything? That I want to influence everybody. I want to be the right person. I call them, leave them messages. I do things and I'm unable to give up something so others can have more. It's about detaching. We need to resolve our issues today before we discarnate so we don't find ourselves in difficult positions. Do you use wee hours and hours? Wee hour and hours and less of I, my, mine? How many of us, my family, my community? But when my family prosper, but the family next door doesn't, the entire society is delayed. When I hoard the resources for my family, my school district, and then there's people down the road on the projects who don't have, we all lose. So it needs to be ours, our society, our community. Are your moments of sadness or silent anger sometimes only known to yourself rarer now? Are we making it more joyful to be in this world? Has a little remorse hidden in the recesses of your soul decreased when we align our values with the laws of Christ? When we align our attitudes with the divine laws, forget of our values because our values are reflective of the divine laws. Do I align my values and attitudes with the divine laws as found in the Spirit's book? Because Jesus did that. Then when we do that, if we ask ourselves every time, friends, before we do something, before we send a message, an email, before we cut someone out of our lives, does this action align with any of the laws, or does it break the laws of God? Because when the less laws we break, then less remorse we're going to have. When we think before we do, when we think before we say things, less remorse we'll do. Have you dissipated all the enemies and dislikes? Are we stopped making enemies and dislikes? Are we just able to forgive and forget what they did to us? Have you overcome chronic lapses of inattention and neglect? Have you studied more deeply the doctrine that you profess? Studying is the most important. You need to know so you can feel in your hearts the divine laws of God. We need to study, but we need to put the studying into action. Do you better understand the function of pain? How many of us run away from pain? But then there's many different types of pain, as Luiz describes to us. the book Sex and Life, if I'm not mistaken. Pain expiation, pain education, pain evolution. When I'm hurting physically, emotionally, psychologically, do I really know why am I going through? What is the function of pain? Pain is an alarm system in the body. If I put my hand on the stove and the stove is hot, I take it and I feel pain. It's my body telling me something is wrong. So if I'm constantly finding myself in the same situations and entanglements with the same types of people and suffering, that's a way for us, our conscience, to tell us, let's do something different. Do we still cultivate some discrete disagreements? Do we still smile at one another, but deep down we are disagreeing? We are sending those mental darts where I don't agree with them, I don't respect their choices. I'm smiling, I'm there, I'm silent, but inner silence doesn't exist. Do you help those in need with greater abnegation? Do we have someone to call in the middle of the night? Are we that person for someone that we would give up our sleep, our rest, so that they can be helped? Am I able to give a little bit more of my salary to a food bank so people can have food? Can I buy a meal to the home for the homeless? There's so many things that we can use to help others with abnegation, resigning, forgetting about myself. Have you really been praying? Praying is tricky because we think we pray, but is our heart in the prayer? Better than pray with words than not pray, but are we really feeling and saying, God, I'm here. I'm your servant. May your will be done. But please help me. I don't know how to deal with X, Y, and Z. Prayer is an invocation. God listens to you, to me, to anybody. Are we really praying the right way? Are we praying for the right things? Is that a right way to pray? You ask. And then we go to this Gospel according to Spiritism. The last 2 chapters about prayer. There's a little tips and tricks of a structure of prayer. We praise God, we give thanks, and we ask. It's not about the reciting words, not about being in a certain place, it's not about kneeling, not kneeling, hands together, hands separate, eyes open, eyes closed. It's about, do I really feel what I am asking for? Am I prepared to be granted what I'm asking for? Am I kind? I'm understanding, so on and so forth. Have your ideas evolved? Because we think we crystallize. Oh, I believe this when I was 15, now I'm 45. Whatever is what I believe. No, we need to learn more. We need to interact with one another. That's the law of society. So that you have an ability to see my point of view. I can see your point of view. And we both evolve. And we're able to say, I was wrong. I was right. That's one of the things that humbly I will share. Humbly, as a scientist, that's what they drill down when you get your PhD. They like teach you how to think so in a way that you are trying to prove your hypothesis. You're working on something. Then a new set of data comes, and you have to be humble enough to say yes, it makes sense, and mine doesn't. Then your idea of how to explain a certain phenomena has to evolve. My idea of a family, the way my family looks like, has evolved. My ideas of how to serve others evolved from just giving money to actually going and help one-on-one. That's under Luiz asking us, have our ideals evolved? Our ideals and our ideas as well, right? We want to aim higher. We want to go to the spiritual book, question 100, and go systematically through the hierarchy of the spirits, the spiritual hierarchy, and say, the top of the second order spirits, that's where I want to be. If I want to be calmer, if I want to be nicer, if I want to be more understanding, what do I need to do today so that in 1,000 years I'm there, or in 100 years, in 500 years? Has your rational faith been consolidated more deeply? Are your words more indulgent, your arms more active, and your hands giving more blessings? There's charity in action. Without charity, there's no salvation. Have we done more for others? Have we been able to bless, even if you don't have the physical and financial resources to give? When you do something for someone, you can distribute blessings. I'll give you an example. Let's say now in Christmas time, you're doing a potluck, you're bringing something to the Spiritist Center, you're feeding your family. As you cook, as you buy the groceries, as you prepare the meals, your hands can be blessed. And you can say that is provided that we don't multitask, because that's a misnomer. Task switching is the correct term. Nobody can do two things at a time. We are constantly switching. Our brain can do that. Then if I just leave the Instagram, the Facebook, the cell phone, and I have some meditating music in the background, some instrumental music, and all I'm doing is cooking, I can infuse the food with loving vibrations of healing, of nutrition, thanking everyone who brought that to our tables, because we didn't grow the food. You didn't slaughter the animals, those who gave their lives to feed us. So there's a lot of blessings when you're doing something for someone, when you're fixing something in your house, when you're reading a story to your child. Your words can be more indulgent, your arms can be more active, and your hands can give more blessings. Isn't that beautiful? It's a beautiful way to see things. He says, the gospel is joy in the heart. Have you, in fact, been more joyful and happy inside in the last 3 years? Tough question to ask, because what have we done in the past 3 years? We've lived 2020, 2021, and 2022. If you're living, if you're watching this later on demand and you're not on these years, no, there was a difficult time of a pandemic, a COVID-19 pandemic. Have we, in fact, been more joyful, even within the fact that the pandemic brought us to an understanding that we affect one another, that we need one another to progress, that we need to do our part for the betterment of the community, that there were many people suffering? It highlighted the differences, inequalities. It highlighted the importance of family, because it brought us back to the family and removed all external possibilities. We had to be together, confined, so we can make it work. Have we been more joyful, knowing that God is taking care of us? Everything moves along, everything evolves. Let us check our individual revenue with Christ. Have we evolved? Hopefully, the answer is yes. I'm better today than I was 2 years ago, than I was 10 years ago, and I will continue to improve. Spontaneous way in the existence today while living a peaceful circumstance, so that you may not see the obligation to weigh in tomorrow under the impact of pain. Do not fool yourself. A day that is gone is another share of responsibility, another step toward a spiritual life. It is either another value opportunity or a missed one. So do not leave for tomorrow what you can do today. And I'm not talking about checklists, bucket lists. I'm talking about reconciliation, service. We're not here on the earth to vacation all the time. We're here to help one another. Interrogate your conscience regarding your use of time, to health, and to the opportunities of doing the good that you enjoy in your daily life. What are we doing with the minutes and hours that are not just this, right? How much time are we spending looking at screens, hopefully watching cardiac radio, listening to the app? You're joining your Spiritist Center. We have a Spiritist YouTube channel, so this cardiac radio. But he says, interrogate your conscience. Interrogate your phone too, because your phone and tablets have a timer that can count the amount of time you spend with the screens, so that we can do the good that we enjoy doing in our daily lives. Do it now, he says, while you still have a body, a human body. Use this possibility to reconsider guidelines and easily undo mistakes. Because when they come to you, excuse me, because when you come to this side, the spiritual realm, it will be often more difficult. Because here you have the constraints of the physical body. In the spiritual realm, you will be where your mind is. Your mental creations, as Andrea explained to us in the book Evolution into Worlds, will lead us to the areas and places where we are, will end up. So let's do it today. Let's use this time to re-examine ourselves, our relationship with one another, so that we can live a more joyful life. This is from the book Spiritist Opinion, or Opinion of Spirit, by Luiz, psychographed by ChicoXavier, is the first chapter of that book. Unfortunately, not yet in English, but many of the articles that you see in the magazine are not in English yet. Maybe one day there will be, with willingness of God. But between now and then, you can watch this program, you can download the app, you can read the magazine, and there's so much more that we can do together. Dear friends, it's always a blessing and an honor to be with you. Stick around. Our dear friend Carol Correa will be bringing to you the Divine Laws at 9 p.m. God willing, I'll be back with you next week with another program. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.